Welcome guys to a new tutorial from Nyjo FX. Today I'd like to introduce a really nice tool we are using in our new tutorials and courses we are preparing at Nyjo. We had the pleasure to try Chaos Vantage a few of months ago, and then we decided to start playing in a more deep way and play with it on our courses because we think it is really useful and powerful. For example, in the upcoming November session of Primal Predator Masterclass we are near to release, we are going to use Chaos Vantage as an additional tool to our pipeline. I'm not sure if you know which kind of software we are talking about. By the way, Chaos Vantage is a real-time renderer based on the RTX hardware. It is a pure ray tracer, so you can imagine like having a real-time V-Ray version. It's a standalone software. You can use it for a lot of stuff. So here on the website of Chaos, you can see something about it. You can also have the possibility to try the software using a demo version, and you see that usually we have a subdivision here about visualization for ArtViz artists and Chaos Vantage for visual effects professionals. So the idea is that many users are obviously using Chaos Vantage for visualization, product design, and architectural renderings because it's really powerful. You can explore in real time the scene, you can manage the scene, work on lighting, materials, cameras, etc., and everything is done in real time. You will see how it works in a few moments. By the way, we are interested on this side, Chaos Vantage for visual effects. Obviously, they give you an idea on their website. So they are talking, for example, to use Chaos Vantage to create playblast. So we are talking about the preview of the scene. They are talking about previews at an higher quality, and also to create a real-time reference. So what they are talking about? Usually we can create, for example, an animatic using the preview inside our software. It is called, for example, playblast in Maya. It is called preview in 3ds Max. You have the same in Houdini, Cinema 4D, and all the other 3D tools you can use. So the possibility is to know that you can use an higher quality way to render the playblast, and that's really nice. The other idea is to use it for pre-vids or post-vids at an higher quality, because it is a complete 3D renderer, And the other way is to have a real-time renderer to simulate the lighting. So if you double check here the Chaos Vantage website, you will see some idea. So if you are using Chaos Vantage, for example, for pre-vids, you know that you can create the scene and then you are going to create the playblast, and the quality will be not so high. If you see Maya is creating the playblast, and that's the playblast. So at a really poor quality. You can use the texture, you can use the lighting, but it's a different way. Then you can use Chaos Vantage, and you will see that the scene is essentially really similar to the final render, but you can control everything and manage the scene in real time. So if you go to play the animation and render the scene at a really fast speed, because here we are talking about 6 minutes, for example, you can see the differences. That's the Maya Playblast, and that's the render done with Chaos Vantage. So the quality is really higher and can give you a better idea about what we are talking about. But the other way is that you can render and play with the lighting and materials in real time, and that means that if you are working in your software, like for example Maya or 3ds Max, obviously working on the scene is lower because you work in the viewport, then you have to play with the render you can have, for example, the render in real time using V-Ray in the viewport, but it is not so fast. Using Chaos Vantage is really fast because it's essentially real time. And you see that here we have a really nice feature that if we are talking about visual effects, we can find inside Maya and 3ds Max. And we are talking about the live linking. So the stuff are linked between the two software, and everything you do inside Maya or 3ds Max is done in real time and updated in real time inside Chaos Vantage. The other way is to save everything in V-Ray scene format and then open inside Chaos Vantage and then continue working inside Chaos Vantage. Okay, so there are two different ways to work with Vantage. So that's essentially the idea, because you can play with the lighting, you can play with the scene assembly, and everything can be done in real time, seeing something really similar to the final render. So let's go to see something related, for example, to the pre-vids and post-vids, because the really nice way, let's say the really nice thing we have inside Chaos Vantage is that it's a completely pure raytracer and is able also to split in layers the rendering. So we have the AOV. Obviously, you have to imagine that not all the features of your software are obviously compatible with Chaos Vantage. By the way, you can go here, you see in their website the technical requirements, you see which platforms are supported about the file. You see that the Chaos Vantage can import the V-Ray scene exported with V-Ray Next, V-Ray 5, V-Ray 6, and Corona 12. Then you see that you have the live link from 3ds Max, SketchUp, Rhino, Revit, and Cinema 4D. Let's go to double check here how you can work. You see that for each software you have the feature that are support. So for example, if we go inside 3ds Max, let's say that we like to see which are the feature of 3ds Max that are support. Here you have all the parameters and all the stuff that are support. So there are things that if are done inside 3ds Max will be not visible inside Vantage. By the way, it is still a really great addition. If we go to see something, this one is a project I worked on many years ago, and it's talking about Independence Day, Resurgency, because we can talk about the difference between pre-vids and post-vids. We have, from one side, we have the playblast, and this one is really simple and the quality is not so high. Then we have the pre-vids and the post-vids. Okay, usually everything was done, you can find it right in this way, or sometimes this one is the S, okay, because it's post-visualization, pre-visualization. So in the past everything was done, for example, in Maya or Udini or 3ds Max or whatever else. So it was done using the playblast feature, or for example a really low quality rendering and stuff like that. Usually the pre-vids is done previously the shooting. So before shooting you are creating the 3D pre-visualization to decide the scene, and then you go to shoot the scene. Okay, so this one is done pre. So previous the shooting. The post-vids usually is done after the shooting, so you can pick also the shot that was done, and then you can comp everything. Okay, and this one can be really useful because you can test the look, the lighting, how it works, adding some kind of low quality visual effects and stuff like that. So this one is really useful, for example, to help the visual effects team to make the decision. It's useful for the early screening to see how the scene can work for the public and stuff like that. So in the past I worked on this project, and for example here we tried to do a really high quality previsualization. So we used the rendering. And it was not so fast to do because we used V-Ray to render everything. So you can imagine that it's a really nice way to make a previsualization because the scene is nice, because it's full CGI and it's rendered, and we have also the visual effects, but it's really time consuming. You have to spend a lot of budget and time and the team to create something like that. Okay, so that's an idea. And for example, in this case, Chaos Vantage can be really a big solution. If we go to double check the post visualization, here we have something. I like to show you something. And the post visualization, we have everything, because you see we have also the shot that is shoot, we have the compositing, and we have everything working together. We have some kind of effects, so it's something that can give a better idea about the final look. If we go to see something that is done by a really well-known company, the Third Floor is a really amazing company working essentially in the pre-visualization and post-visualization. And that's, you see, we have the suit scene, here we have the previews, and then that's the final one. So you see something that is more similar to the final scene. And depending on the project, depending on the director, depending on the team, obviously you can have something more similar to the final quality or something more distant, so more similar to some kind of low quality playblast. It depends on the stuff you have to do. By the way, in the previews we have no shooted scenes. In the post feeds we have the compositing with the shooted scenes. Okay, so essentially that's how it works. Obviously every single team has the stuff that are working in a different way, so it depends on the team, it depends on the production. So here we have, for example, 3ds Max, and 3ds Max has the possibility to live link directly with Chaos Vantage. By the way, what I mean with a live link connection, let's imagine that I want to create something really simple. We have essentially a plane for the moment, okay? Let's go to Open Vantage. We give some time to create the UI. Okay, here you see we have some scenes, and later I will show you a more complex scene. So let's say we get to create a new file, and we need to have enough space for both. Okay, and let's go to add more space on 3ds Max. Okay, there is no live link connection for the moment. So let's say that we are going to live link. It is asking to switch to V-Ray GPU. We say yes. Now it takes a little bit of time to move the stuff from 3ds Max to Chaos Vantage. Let's give it the time. Okay, done. We can move the V-Ray log because it's useful to know if something is not working, if we have some kind of problems about the live link and stuff like that. I like to have a little bit more space because here we have information about the memory usage, the RTX video board we are using, which is the rendering resolution and stuff like that. Actually, you see that we have nothing, but in any way, if you know V-Ray, you should find something really similar because you see we have the sunlight, we have the skylight, we have the ambient occlusion, fog. Here we have the camera, we have the color correction, so it is similar to the virtual frame buffer. And here we have the rendering engine, the basic feature, and the advanced parameters. So it's really, really nice how it works. And here we have the scene management, so we have the environment, we have the materials, and we have all the information about the scene state lister with all the stuff we have inside the scene. So we see nothing because essentially we have no light. That's the problem. So if we go here and we say, okay, let's use a V-Ray Live. from now on everything will be updated in real time. So you see that if we go to create something, everything is updated, so that's something really amazing, I have to say, because you see the speed how it works. So let's imagine that we go here and we say, okay, I like to tweak the material. I'm going to use the compact one because we have less space. So let's imagine that this one is, I go to create something really fast. So let's say that this one is a crop material. It is saying, you see that it's an unsupported material, the physical material. So we have to go here and use the V-Ray material. And you see that it's changing in real time. Okay, let's go for aluminum rough. And we can go in advanced. And let's say that I like to have the same stuff we are creating inside here with the texture. I like to have it for all the materials. So let's go in the color correction. We get to remove the bloom, so we have not that bloom effects. And then let's go to create, for example, also a torus. Okay, more segments. Let's say that this one is a light tube. Assign to this one, creating a V-Ray light material, and you see that this one is illuminated. So let's say that this one is a red light, and let's say 10. If we go here and selecting this light and set to off, you see that now the lighting is coming essentially from the light tube. Okay, we can go lower, so we have a little bit of light from there and more light coming from there. So I think that this is a really nice way to work. We can continue to play with the stuff because, for example, we can say this one is the floor, and we go to have a V-Ray material, and then we say, okay, let's create something with a V-Ray bitmap. I'm going just to pick something really fast. I'm not sure if we have something here. I will try to go over some folders I have here, and I go to pick something. Let's see, for example, this one. Okay, let's say that it's done with a wood, and you see that we have it. So then we can copy this one and say we are moving it. And then we should have also the roughness. We tweak the material here, saying to use the roughness, and then we go to have the reflection, and then we can copy the same and use the normals. Paste here and say, okay, let's use the normal. We can have a little bit more if we like, for example 60, and it is essentially, it is working. Okay, so obviously if we move the camera, it works in real time. Then if we go to add, for example, let's say another light, and this one is a dome, obviously we have a really huge lighting here. But we can say, let's use a V-Ray bitmap, and then we go to pick, for example, let's say this one. Let's say okay. Obviously, it is moving the stuff from one software to the other. So sometimes you can have some small slow down, really small. So now we have it. You see? Let's go here. Let's say that we have and higher roughness, and everything is updated in real time. We pick, for example, this one. Let's say that we go to have a bend, and you see that in real time is bending, and obviously it works in animation too. So if we say auto, let's create some keys. You see that we can move it and see in real time everything. I mean, it is something that is really nice because if we go to create a preview, obviously we have something like that. Maybe we can have a little bit higher quality, but it will be never rendered in this way because this one is a pure raytracer, so it's something different. We have, for example, the quality of the DLSS to see what we are doing. So we have, for example, performance, and in this way will be also faster than before. And we have, for example, the maximum quality, so it will be a little bit slower, but you see everything is moving in real time, obviously, because the quality is not so high, the scene is really simple and stuff like that. So now I'd like to show you something, and I mean created something more complex. By the way, for example, if we go here, let's say that we unlink the scene, let's say new, discard everything, and we go in V-Ray and we say V-Ray export. We do something really fast, so let's go over the desktop. It's not the best way, but test export, and we go, okay, that's not a problem. We go to export this one and say okay, export. We should have everything done, and then we go here and we say import. We go over the desktop and we pick the V-Ray scene, and we say okay, let's pick everything. Takes just a little bit of time, but you see that now we have it. We have no camera, so we should create it. By the way, you see that essentially we have the scene we had before, and now we can work directly here. So we have no connection anymore with 3ds Max. So we can say, okay, now it works here in real time, and we play with the stuff. So for example, we say, okay, let's add, for example, the fog. Let's work with the ambient occlusion. Let's say that we go again here and we say, okay, let's change again the look. Let's remove the stuff, and we have here the light. You see that we see the V-Ray light, and we can say, okay, set to on or to off. We can change the information, you see. So we have essentially now the possibility to control the scene as we are in 3ds Max. So you see that we are changing everything. We have the torus light, because this one now is a mesh light. We can say that it's not visible. We can say that we have a maximum intensity. Then we can go back here and say we have no sun, and say, for example, it is lower the physical sky. You see, or it can be higher. So now it is up to us to play with the scene. If you have the animation, obviously you will be able to have also the camera animation and object animation. Depends on the stuff that are compatible with the software. So let's say new scene. Yes, let's discard. And now I like to create to show you something more complex, because we saw something that is really simple to be done, but for example in this case we have a more complex scene, and we are talking about the scene that we have in our courses. So you see we have a dinosaur animated that is moving inside an environment. So if we go to create a playblast, will be fast, but the quality will be not so high. So you know how it works perfectly. So let's say that we like to connect to Chaos Vantage. with more complex scene, obviously sometimes it takes a little bit of time to move all the data from 3ds Max or the other software to Chaos Vantage. By the way, let's say that we don't like to have the autosave, so let's connect line link. Now it will take time to move all the meshes, all the texture and whatever else, so let's wait for it. Okay, done. We have the scene. Obviously this one we're rendering in a different way in 3ds Max because the scene was prepared and worked to be rendered in a way, in a specific way, but we can tweak the stuff here. And also remember that this one is really fast. You see that it's updating essentially in real time, and we are working on the 3090, so it's not so so amazing as a GPU. You know that we have, for example, 4090 that is faster. We have the upcoming 5090, so you can imagine that it can be really faster. And Chaos Vantage can use 2 GPU, so you can have a really fast way to interact and to render. By the way, if we like to tweak a little bit the scene, we can do here or we can do it here. So let's remove the bloom. Let's go to have the filmic tone map, and then we go to tweak some stuff in the scene. It's okay to have the depth of field. I like to have the ambient occlusion, but I like also to tweak the lighting just to show you how it works. Let's see, okay, I like to have all the meshes visible. So you see that now all the meshes are visible. Let's go in the light rig and let's start to have just the dome, to take care about just the dome for the moment. Okay, so that's the dome. It is really bright, so you can imagine to have a little bit less lighting. Let's add the sun, and we go just a little bit less, something like that. Then we have a fill light from the ground. It's too much. Obviously, if you go here, if you remember in the advanced, you have here the enable light. You can remove the light and say how much the light's power for all the light can use, you know. So in this way, you have the possibility to create a lighting here, lower inside Chaos Vantage, and then continue working without any kind of problem. By the way, let's go back to the lighting. This one is a front lighting fill light. I think this one can be lower, just a little bit. And then this one was the back, sorry. This one is the front. It is orange, and also this one is too much. Let's try with 4. Okay, something like that. So when the dinosaur moves up to us, it seems not bad about the lighting. But we can add more details, for example, with the displacement. And that's the case where not all the features are support. So if we go here and we say we had a V-ray displacement before, but we have the 3D mapping, this one can't be used. So the only one that is supported by Chaos Vantage at the moment is the landscape. So let's say, okay, let's use the landscape. Okay, let's go here and say regenerate the displacement. I just to double check if the displacement was set to on. In the preferences, I have to double check. Yeah, okay, so we have a really high tessellation. Let's say that I like to see. Okay, it was not set on, sorry. So now it is tessellating the mesh. It takes obviously a little bit of time, so we have the tessellation. So now we can see if obviously it's too much or not, and obviously it's too much. So let's go back to 200, maybe 100. But you see that we have a poor quality about the displacement. Let's go back to a really high value. And that's because it is using the tessellation. So you see that we have a really low amount of polygons. If we go, for example, to say, let's use 2 iteration and say regenerate displacement, we are going to have a little bit more quality. The same thing can be done if you go to add, for example, a tessellation. Let's go for a nice tessellation, so we have a lot of faces. Obviously it should need a little bit of love to do it in a better way. By the way, we have it. Then let's try to tessellate again, and that's what we can achieve for the moment. So let's go to high resolution. For the texture, we have just a little bit more informations. Then we can go back to a lower value, and now we have the displacement. So it is not bad. Maybe we can go lower just a little bit, let's say 75. Okay. Let's see if we have a lower amount of tessellation. It works nicely. So let's say that we go in a perspective. Obviously we are losing the depth of field, but we have back, you see the scene completely working, and it is working in real time, and that's, I mean, that's amazing. In this way, for example, we can see how the material is working. So we can go back in the material. Let's wait for the texture loading. Okay, and we have here the possibility to play with the material. Obviously there are some stuff that are not compatible, so the material is converted to something that is more similar to what we can achieve. By the way, here we have the glossiness. Let's see if we can control everything. Okay, let's go on the other side. Okay, let's remove the specular color and the specular amount for the moment. Okay, so okay, now you see a really higher specularity, so it is clear how it is behaving. And for example, you can decide if the sun is too much. Let's say that I like to have a lower sun energy. Or go really lower. You see, you can decide how much it needs to be. And then you can decide how the skin is behaving, because you have the possibility to tweak everything in real time. That's amazing. You see that we are going to have something more similar to a wet skin. Let's go back in the camera. Okay. And you see that essentially we are changing everything directly in real time, and that's amazing. So let's say that we are okay with this one. So we can just see if we have the specular amount back. Okay, it is just a little bit lower on some areas. In this case, for example, you can say, okay, I like to have this one rendered at full resolution. You can go here and say, okay, let's render it, and let's use the denoiser. Let's render it here with the naming. Let's say over the desktop. Here you have some tests. You see, front, the noise. .png, and then we say okay, render. It is really amazingly fast. Obviously it's going to use the denoiser, so it is possible that we are losing some details, but we have a render done in this at this speed. So if you are trying to do something really fast, it works perfectly. Obviously you have the possibility to say I like to have something with a better quality, so you get to remove the noise and say, okay, let's use, for example, I'm not testing how much samples we need, so let's say, okay, we need 1000 samples. It is lower because we are thinking about 27 seconds, so, but it is, again, really, really fast. It is amazingly fast. Then let's wait, and then we can see the second one. This one is done without the noise, so obviously it should be better. We can add the layer, and let's say that we go to use the first one. Let's say to make it not visible. It is also complex to see the difference. Here we see some noise. Here we see no noise, but obviously we are losing a little bit of details, but for this case it works perfectly because at this distance we don't see so much differences, So it means that if we say, okay, that's okay, we like now to render the sequence. Let's move this one here and say, okay, render this animation with Chaos Vantage. This is the camera. And then we say, okay, let's use a custom frame range, or the frame range is not a problem. Let's say maybe 50 frames. And let's say this one, we have a folder, and we called Dino anim preview.png. And we say, okay, let's go with 50. Sorry. So it is back, but obviously I lose the setup. It was nice because before I saved everything, the scene, and now we can have back all the details, and we can say open the scene as a config. In this way, it is not merging stuff like the erase scene or stuff like that, but picking just the setup. So let's say, let's pick this one. Okay, and we have a new look. Obviously we lose something about the scene we done before. It is a little bit different, but it works in a really nice way. So let's say we have no more connection. Let's say we like to render it. Next. Okay, it is again connecting to update the stuff. It is loading back the texture. I think I have some problem with the GPU, sorry. So sorry, but I had another renderer under the GPU at the moment, so I render again with the other workstation. So it is something the lower resolution. You see some red spot over the rocks because there is some kind of maps that's not compatible with Vantage, but you see that we have this animation. It's the other camera. We have less details because I tried to be faster during the setup process, but it works like a final quality rendering. And the nice thing is that every single frame took around 4 seconds to be rendered. Okay, so essentially that's the issue. We can solve a big problem. We can have a really high quality render for playblast, previsualization, post-visualization and stuff like that. And it can be a really big solution, because again, you can split also the stuff on layers using the AOV, and in this way you can create more complex setup scene and more complex compositing, so you can simulate something that is really similar to the final render. If you go here, you see that you have the render elements you can set up, and then you can decide what do you like to export. So it's something that is really, really amazing. So now it is connecting again with my scene, so that's why it is taking a little bit of time. Obviously the linking, all the loading and all the stuff is done just the first time. Then you have just to, Vantage needs just to update stuff step by step, so you have not to take care about this amount of timing loose at the beginning. So guys, I think that Chaos Vantage can be a really great addition to any pipeline for visual effects artists and also for studios. As I said, we are going to use it in our courses and masterclass, and I think it would be also interesting to create some free tutorials for you to know more about how to use it. And the idea is also to use it as a final rendering engine, so I think it's really interesting also on this side. So if you have any comments, if you have any requests, if you like to see more free tutorials for Chaos Vantage, please write us a comment, please write us a mail. Let's keep in contact, let's stay in contact and talk about this really great Chaos software. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you really soon for more free tutorials from Nyjo.